everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Sophie and in today's video I'm going to be reading the longest and the shortest book on my physical TBR. So before I get into the video, please remember to like this video if you enjoy it and subscribe to my channel for more bookish content. I primarily read fantasy, thriller and romance books and I post videos every Sunday. So like I said, in today's video I'm going to be reading the longest and the shortest book on my physical TBR. So the longest book on my physical TBR is The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. This one is 566 pages long, so not actually too long in the grand scheme of things, definitely a bit of a chunky one. I don't know too much about this one. I have read a couple of Mark Lawrence books before, so I have read the Book of the Ancestor series, which I really enjoyed by him, and I have also read the sequel series to that, which I actually DNF'd at book 2. I didn't really enjoy that one very much, so I'm a bit hesitant about whether I'm going to enjoy this one, but all I know about it is it's set in a library and I'm really interested to read this one. And then the shortest book on my physical TBR is The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle. This one is 292 pages long and I have no idea what this one is about. This one I got in a blind date with a book that my friend kindly bought me for Christmas last year, but I am really excited to this one as when I opened it she said that she really loved it, and I think it's like sort of like a classic fantasy book, so I'm really excited to get to this one as well. Hey guys, so I'm just checking in with the first reading update for this vlog. So I am currently 144 pages into The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence, and I'm pleased to say I am really enjoying this one so far. So not really a lot has happened so far and the plot hasn't really sufficed, let's say, yet. So far we follow two perspectives. So we have Eva and Livia. So we get Livia's perspective first, and she lives basically outside of this city. She lives in the Dustlands, and in the very first chapter these creatures called Sabbers come and attack her village. They kill her aunt. Her parents died when she was very young. They kill her aunt, they kill like all the adults in the village, and then they take all the children and they tie their wrists together, tie them in a line, make them start walking. Whilst they're walking, some soldiers from the kingdom come, kill the Sabbers and then take the children, because they're going to take the children to the kingdom to sort of like not put them to work, but take care of them there, because obviously their village has been destroyed. Whilst they're on the way there, there's a couple of soldiers who Livia kind of not makes friends with, but she sort of starts to question and things like that. So one of them, she warns about a creature called a dust bear and basically saves his life by warning him that this creature is about to attack him. Also helps him fight this creature off. And when they get to the kingdom eventually, there's a lot of prejudice against people like Livia from the people that live in this kingdom. They call them dusters and it's like a derogatory term, and basically this kingdom is kind of very classist. So they give the children some food, they give them a bath, and then basically all of them are sent off through this door system. There's 5 doors. The first door is for people like them who are like unskilled or they look down on, and then as you rise up through the doors, the more skilled or more prestigious you are. So in the 5th door is where like the king's daughter goes and very important people go. You basically like pay for the privilege kind of thing. This soldier believes that Livia is more clever than she lets on, so there's certain things that she knows, and like he's very good at mental arithmetic as well, and he pushes her through the 5th door and is like, just try your luck, see what happens. When she goes in, she kind of fails a couple of the tests and eventually she's put through door 3 by this guy called You, and he's basically wants her to learn to read and to write and things like that, and I guess maybe she'll become some sort of like apprentice to him, I'm not really sure. Anyway, as she's sort of picking up her knowledge, she's very, like I said, she's very good at mental arithmetic, but she's not very good at reading and writing. This guy comes in who is like basically the king's second-hand man, and the people that she's made friends with, he sets them a challenge to find a book in the library. Now this library was created, like everyone says, it's by the king's great-grandfather, and it's like a magical library. We haven't really, the other perspective is in the library, but we don't really know too much about this library yet, especially from Livia's perspective, and it seems that the library that Eva is in is kind of different to the library that Livia sees. We're not really sure, so I'll get to that when we get to Eva's perspective. And they have just gone into the library and are trying to find this book, because otherwise one of them will have to leave the classroom forever, and obviously that's going to be Livia, because the king's right hand man doesn't appreciate being shown up as he was when Livia spoke to him, in a way. So that's kind of Livia's perspective, and there's probably a few details that I've missed out on that. It's very intense, this book. Like, it's not a quick read, you really have to pay attention to it. And then we have Evar's perspective. So Evar is about 20 years old. He was drawn into the library along with 4 other children at a very different point. They're all from different generations, basically. They were drawn into the library and then essentially like sucked in, and then the mechanism spat them all out together, and none of them aged. So generations have passed since one of the first children went in, and essentially they see themselves as brothers and sisters. So there's 4 boys and 1 girl. They see themselves as brothers and sisters, although they are having like relations with each other, which kind of weirds me out that they refer to each other as like brother and sister. And yeah, so essentially from what I understand, the other 4 got sucked in with a book, and they've kind of taken on those books' characteristics. So like one of them is very like good at killing, and one of them is very good at equations because we had a maths book with him, and Evar didn't have a book with him, so he's the only one who's kind of remained more of himself. And one of them was murdered by one of the others, and none of them know which one of the others murdered Mayland. So we have Evar, Mayland who's dead, Keller, Clovis and Starvel. They're spat out. One of them murders the other one many years later, and they are basically trapped in the library. They can't escape, and they're trying to find their way out. They're trying to discover what's going on in this library, and we are basically discovering with them, because all we've heard so far about the library is that like it was created by the king's great grandfather, and it's like a magical library, and that's kind of it. I guess we're going to kind of explore this library with these children, or these like young, I think Livia is more of like a child, and Eva is more of like a 20-year-old. Eva then finds this book, Do Not Turn the Page. It's addressed to him, and it says, Eva, do not turn the page of this book, and the sentence doesn't quite finish. And then there's a few other people in this library, but they seem kind of like robotic or not quite human. So there's someone called the assistant and the soldier, and the assistant touches this book, and more of the writing, more of the illustrations come to life. So I guess it's going to be Eva discovering more about this book and more about this library where he's basically held prisoner, and then Livia discovering this kingdom and discovering this library as well. So like I said, I'm only 144 pages in. Like I said, it's very intense so far. That's the plot so far. I guess eventually our 2 perspectives must combine, or we'll learn a bit more about what is kind of the main plot of this book. So far it's just a lot of setup, but I am really enjoying it. I find this world and this whole concept of the library really interesting. It's definitely very fantastical, and like the magic system seems really cool, and I hope we learn a bit more about it as we go on with this book. But yeah, I am really enjoying it so far. There's not really too much to say. I am only like 144 pages in, but I'm intrigued as to what's going to happen, how our 2 perspectives are going to sort of mix together, and where the plot of this is actually going. I'm really glad I'm enjoying this. I was a bit worried because I didn't enjoy the latest Mark Lawrence series that I read by him, which was the continuation. It was the Girl in the Mountain series. I DNF'd book 2 in that one. I really didn't like that series, but I loved the Book of the Ancestor, so I'm hoping that this one is as good as the Book of the Ancestor, or at least close. I'm going to go and read a little bit more and check back in with you when I'm a bit further along, because I don't really think I've given a very good synopsis of this book, because not really a lot has happened. There's a lot of setup so far. But yeah, really enjoying this one so far. I'm going to crack back on and check back in with you guys later. Hey guys, so I'm just checking in with another reading update. So I am currently 368 pages through the Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence, and I'm still really enjoying this one. So since I last updated you, we've definitely learned a bit more about this world, and our characters have had a little bit of crossover. However, we're not really sure what the sort of timelines of these 2 characters are. So it seems obviously that this library is magical. We don't really know where the magic sits, or like how the magic works in a way. So also the main female character's name is Livera, and I was calling her Livia yesterday, so I'm sorry about that. But she has come across our other main character Eva, and they've had a couple of interactions, but we're not really sure kind of where they both sit in the grand scheme of this world. So quite a few years have passed now. There's a lot of time jumps in these chapters, and you only kind of find out, like, Liveria will be talking and she'll be like, oh, it's been 3 years since this incident, and the incident was that we had just read about, kind of thing. So there's a lot of time jumps to kind of wrap your head around. It's definitely a book that you have to really focus on. If you find yourself kind of like zoning out, you definitely miss quite a bit of information. I am interested to see how this kind of kingdom is working. So since we last spoke, the Sabres have kind of attacked more and more of the Dusters, and they've they've come even closer to this city in this kingdom, and they're now attacking in the city. So I think the government, the kingdom, is trying to find some technology to kill these people, but it's kind of not really working out very well in their favour. Our two main characters are trying to find their way back to each other and find out what's going on with each other. So Evar's timeline seems to be like a day will pass for him and like several years will pass for Livria. So we don't know if he's in the past, he's in the present, if he's in the future, or is Livria in the future? Like, where are they in conjunction with one another? And then the library itself seems to have a very weird sense of time. So like Livria has been in it a few times looking for books, and like it feels like an hour for her and days will pass. Yeah, it's just really interesting how this library works, and there seems to be no, it's kind of a bit of a running joke in this book that there's just no organisation to it. Like each librarian tries to put its own mark on the library and do its own organisation, and then they never get around to finishing it, and then another librarian comes in and just upheaves everything, and there's just basically there's so many like organisation systems going on at once that there is no organisation. And we've met a few sort of like magical creatures as well. So there's this raven that Livria keeps coming across, who seems to be like an assistant in this library, but only she seems to be coming across him. And there's been quite a few encounters with him, which is really interesting. And just, yeah, I don't really know how to explain this book. It is kind of like a weird fantasy, but it's really, really, really good. I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, I don't really have too much to say. Like, it's still a very slow read. Like, it's taken me quite a while to read those sort of like 200 pages since I last spoke to you. So I'm kind of hoping maybe I can finish this tonight, or maybe at least get a good chunk of this done. I don't know if I'll be able to finish it, but I think I will check back in with you guys when I have finished this. But yeah, this is really, really interesting, and just it's quite different to what I've been reading recently in terms of fantasy. I think with Mark Lawrence, you don't get all your answers straight away, and you are kind of sat in this world a bit confused. And I didn't enjoy it in the Girl and the Stars series. I found it really quite difficult, whereas this one, you're getting just enough that it makes sense, but you're not getting the whole concept. I think that's the key difference, is that what you're getting is logical and makes sense, but it's like relevant to these characters' storylines as and when you're getting this information, because obviously Livria is learning this as she's spending more time in the library. Obviously she is from outside of this kingdom. Evar is stuck in this library and he's not really remembered anything else but this library, so, and even they don't really understand how it works. It just seems to be just an insane place. Yeah, this is still really, really good so far. I am still really, really enjoying it. Yeah, I can't wait to get back to it and try and get this one finished. But yeah, I will check back in with you guys when I'm done with this one. Hey guys, so I have now finished reading The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence, and I think I'm going to give this one a 4-star rating. So I actually really enjoyed this one, and I was quite surprised by how much I actually did enjoy this one. The ending was a little bit confusing, so we had a lot of stuff going on, and obviously with the two different timelines I found it very confusing. I felt like we were jumping back and forth, and even within perspectives it was very jumbled. And we would read from like Liveria's perspective, and we suddenly jump to Evar's perspective, but then we'd repeat a little bit of what happened in Liveria's, and it was just very jumbled. And I think I'm gonna have to reread the last sort of like 50 or so pages, I think, before I go into the next book, just to sort of remind myself and even kind of understand what happened, because there was quite a lot of revelations. There was a few twists in this which I didn't expect, and that was really cool. But yeah, it was just very jumbled near the end. And I think maybe he was in a bit of a rush to wrap this up. This book is long, it's like 560 pages, you know, he didn't need to rush the ending. I think we could have sort of cut some of the bits out just before the ending and then had a bit of a longer ending and really understood what was going on. But the ending was really interesting, and I'm definitely excited to continue on with this series. And yeah, this one was really, really good. It would have been a 4.5, but I think I'm going to drop it down to a 4 just because it was a little bit confusing near the end. That's it really for this one, but I'm really glad I read it, and it just goes to show, don't be put off by your chunky book, because they can be really good. And I have like interestingly heard quite mixed reviews about this one. People either seem to really love it or really hate it, and I'm glad that I fell in the camp of really loving it, because I was a bit worried with not enjoying one of his previous series, but this one is definitely, hopefully, going to continue to be right up my alley. So yeah, really, really enjoyed this one in the end. So then that brings us to the shortest book on the TBR, which is The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle. Hey guys, so I'm just coming in to wrap this reading vlog up, as I have now read The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle. So I think this is a really good book. my personal enjoyment of it is a 3-star. So I'm just going to read the synopsis for this one because I don't really want to say too much and give away what happens. I know this is like a classic fantasy book, but I don't want to give away what happens or like say something that spoils anything. It says, living in peace in her lilac wood, the unicorn didn't know the world had changed or that anything had happened to the rest of her kind. Overhearing a chance conversation, she resolves to venture out and discover the truth. The road is dangerous and the risks are great. If she fails, then unicorns will be lost forever. So we follow said unicorn, and there's sort of like a cast of characters that we get to know. We've got like a wizard, we just got some sort of like random woman that they picked up. There's like the king and the prince and this fantastical land, and it was a really good story. It was very whimsical, and I do feel like the writing was a bit all over the place, and that was kind of my issue with it. I did really enjoy the story, don't get me wrong. I think it is well written. It's just not my preferred taste in a book. The chapters were really long, which was fine. I didn't have a problem with that, but it felt like it was very, I don't know how to explain it, but we were kind of, so in like some of the chapters we'd be in this situation and then suddenly that situation is almost like resolved. It's so, for example, like say they're walking through the woods and then there's like this whole dialogue of them walking through the woods, and then suddenly in the next sentence they are where they're supposed to be, but in the previous sentence they were just at the beginning of their journey. It was very like jumpy, I think is what I'm saying. It's very the plot was very jumpy, and it got a little bit confusing for me in parts, especially like near the end when there was kind of like the big climax of the plot. I was sort of like, hang on a minute, like what? Like you were there a second ago and now you're here, and or like this person's died, or like it was very jumpy, which I just really struggled with. I think if this was a little bit of a different writing style, I'd have really enjoyed this a lot more. However, like I said, I still did really enjoy the story. Like we had so many magical creatures in this. So at one point the unicorn is at carnival, she's been like captured. This is very early on in the book. She's been captured, and we've got this unicorn, and then we've got like a harpy, and I think there's like a fairy and things like that, and like all these magical creatures were so cool, and I feel like I wish we explored that a little bit more. I don't know if maybe this author's written any more books. I have to check that out. Maybe he sort of explores some different like fantastical creatures, but it just wasn't like my cup of tea. I still enjoyed it, but it's not a new favourite, and it's not really something I'm going to probably think about too much. That being said, I can see where some authors have taken like inspiration from this. So this to me felt like I was reading a Robin Hobb book. Now I've read the entirety of the Realm of the Elderlings. I haven't read her, is it like the Swan Soldier series? I've not read that, but this reminds me of Robin Hobb and her writing style, and I think with Robin Hobb it did take me a few books to like really get into her stories, and that's absolutely fine because I did end up loving like her later books are some of my favourite books, some of my favourite series. Like I love the Live Ship Traders trilogy, so it's worth the payoff and I can get round to it, but I think because this is like a standalone, that's maybe what I'm struggling with. But yeah, I did enjoy it. The writing style just wasn't really for me. I definitely might maybe reread this again in the future and just see, maybe like on a second read I might understand things a bit more and enjoy it a little bit more. I think that would maybe give the book a fairer shout. Not that I didn't enjoy it, I feel like I'm ranting about this book, but I did enjoy it. It just is a 3-star read to me. I'm not really going to think about it too much, but I might reread it again one day. I felt a difficulty to connect to some of the characters as well. So obviously we follow the unicorn from page 1, and then as we kind of go on in the story we pick up more characters, and some of them we didn't really pick up until sort of nearer the end, and it was really difficult to kind of have empathy for their relationships or care about their relationships. So for example, the wizard we sort of pick up quite early on, and like Molly as well, who's just like this random woman basically that we pick up. And then when we get to the bit with like the prince and the king and this kingdom that they're trying to kind of save but not save, I was just kind of like I don't care. And for example, I don't want to give too much away, but like the unicorn and the prince, like their friendship and relationship, and like even the king as well, I just find myself like I just didn't really care because it was introduced like so late into the book, and then we wrapped it up. I was just kind of like okay, I don't want to say what I'm thinking because I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, 3 stars for this one. I am glad I read it because it is like apparently one of the 100 greatest fantasy novels of all time, so I'm glad I've read it. That's all there is to say really about this book. So I did enjoy it. 3 stars. I'll definitely reread it in the future, I think, and maybe I'll enjoy it more and maybe understand what's going on a little bit better with it being so jumpy. So that is the shortest book on my TBR read. So that is going to be it for this reading vlog. Please comment down below if you've read any of these books. I'd love to hear your guys' opinion. Please remember to like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to my channel for more bookish content, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Bye.